right, welcome everyone to BS Friday Live. Today we're talking about how to leverage building technology to build a damn good resilient house. Thank you to my good friend, Josh Salinger of Bird's Mouth Design Build in the Pacific Northwest, leaders in energy efficient design and construction, for making an awesome introduction. We are going to be checking out a high performance framing system designed to meet the thermal moisture requirements for the climate zones in the Pacific Northwest. From the beach to the mountains and the valleys to the high desert, Resilient Framing Systems offers a panelized building product for offsite residential framing. So without further ado, we're going to hop into this week's Dave Cooper Live BS Friday and welcome Scott to the show.
Hey, Dave, thanks for having us. That's awesome. Doing great. Thank you so much for letting us be on. This is awesome.
This is awesome. And Scott, I can't believe that I didn't know about you before today. I'm super excited about this, and I'm super excited to have you on the show. Scott, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, how you got into this, and where'd you get a crazy idea to start a manufacturing facility? And then we'll hop into exactly what Resilient Build is.
Sounds great. Now, I'm not surprised you haven't heard of us. We've been keeping it kind of low as we figure out all the last little nuts and bolts and all that kind of stuff for our system. I'm from Portland, Oregon originally, so grew up in a little town called Gresham, just to the east side of us. Just a blue collar guy that had was making signs and building houses and doing things like that for a long time until I basically found Passive House. And so, we were doing the regular remodeling and historic preservation and all that kind of stuff beforehand. And then, once you learn this stuff, you kind of can't unlearn it. It's like kind of taking the blue pill in the Matrix. You just get sort of, you're in and you can't get out anymore. It's like you're stuck. And so, but in a good way, in a super good way. It's like you just realize the world works differently than you thought it did. And so it was great. We sort of dug in with both hands at that point. I was on the board at FIAS for a while. I was the regional manager for Pacific Northwest for a couple of years. Definitely got involved with Passive House Northwest, which is sort of our regional group of high performance builders. Been on that board for a long time now, the vice president. And really, it sort of just changed the way I did everything. I mean, we just changed all of our building practices and just couldn't get enough. Read everything we could get a hold of, all of Steebrook's books, and, I'll watch you guys and watch everyone. And just like absorbed as much as we possibly could. I did stop and go back to architecture school for a while, which was fantastic, but I thought that they would know more and they don't. Right. And so that was a little disappointing, but it was a great experience. Got my master's in that. And then worked for some folks, same thing, just trying to bring sort of the gospel of Passive House, if you will, to some other architecture firms that I worked with. And it's a much harder push, even in Portland, super liberal, greeny Portland, than you would think it would be. So we started Hinge, which is our design build firm. Started that in 2014. Focused entirely on doing high performance work for that. Did a couple spec houses that were high performance and sold them super easily. Was really great, actually. And I still talk to the homeowners of those projects, and they are delighted living in a really awesome home like that. Super well built buildings. And then as we had done a couple of projects like the traditional way, like on site, it just got to be, maybe just because I was getting older, it just got to be harder and harder to find people who would do the work, and just harder in general. The seasons here are changing a lot more, changing like they are everywhere else. So our summers are hotter, longer, and our winters are colder and wetter. This year we had, everything got down to the teens, which is unheard of in our climate zones. And we've already experienced 90-degree days, which is also unheard of this, and here we are. So it just got to be harder and harder to actually do this work on site. We had always loved the idea of panelization. We talked to several different companies to try and sort of collaborate with them. And I think they were also still kind of growing and figuring things out. And so there were no real takers. The last project we built that was on site was my personal house. So that's what broke me. I was just like, we're never doing this again. I think we went through about 16 craftspeople on that job that either they just like threw up their hands and walked because they just couldn't handle the, like, you know, learning something new, or they just couldn't cut it. I mean, they just weren't, you know, they were too fast and too sloppy and just not willing to sort of step up. And so, you know, we really dived in deep about this whole panelized system. And so that was sort of the journey about a year ago. We ended up finding a location here in Portland. So we're actually really close to the core of Portland, which is great. Gives us the opportunity to pick up a lot of really fantastic craftspeople that are in our city, because Portland is known as a maker city. So there's lots of great talent here. Being able to bring those guys into a shop, they were sort of opens the field of like people that are going to be really great at doing craftsman work with wood. So we've been able to do that here. And we've already built our first 2 projects. We've installed one. That one went up in, we thought it would take about, you know, 7 to 10 days. We got the whole thing done and dried in about 4. 3 days to get it actually built completely from the ground up. And then, and that actually includes all the windows and doors. It includes the WRB. So we do all the waterproofing. We have our own special pest screens that we like to use with a bronze netting, which is like lasts for forever. So it's not plastic. And then that includes the roof and dried in. So, and then airtight. So we also do like a blower door check. So everything's to at least 1 ACH 50 or less. So that was 3 days, and then the roof took about another day. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So after the roof's on, do you go back and do the blower door test after it's all sealed in tight? And like, are you doing the roof yourself?
We are. Yeah, totally. Yep. Yeah. Actually, we even did the metal roof on this particular project because it was a design build project of ours, and we did the whole thing. But yeah, we typically just do, you know, get it watertight and then an airtight, and do the blower door test. We take off as soon as we leave. It's ready for trades to come in and start doing all their work. Then we do come back after the trades are done, and we net and blow everything. So we kind of are still handling our own insulation for it too, just to make sure that gets done right, because we've had issues with that too.
So kind of walk, you know, we're going to walk through the whole process. I'm new, but I'm curious just because we're on it right now. So you set the walls, you set the roof, you get the, you know, air barriers on, you get it tight, you do your blower door test, you get a great reading on that. And then you have the trades come in and start cutting holes for their
ruin it. Yeah, totally.
So what do you do then? Do you do anything after that, or is it kind of?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
No, so you know, when we leave, we make sure there's a little document that the owner signs, or the GC, because a lot of this stuff is meant. What we're trying to do really is not work individually with clients, but work with GCs that want to get there, but just don't want to do all the, you know, it's been 12, 15 years we've been working on this.
Sure.
So we don't want them to have to do all the heavy lifting like we did. So we talk with them, they sign off, you know, here's the blower door, we hit this number. And then when we also have conversations with their trades, you know, we at least call them. That's about the best we can do with residential trades. You know, we can't, we always love to have a meeting and sort of get it all together, the whole IDP thing.
Right.
But that's almost impossible at the residential scale. It's just tough. At least to speak to the guys who are doing the actual work. I mean, you can talk to the sales guy all day long. He's happy to talk to you, but so we get on the phone, or we show up while they're doing their work the first day, and we just walk through, you know, this is an airtight building, you know, we show them the signs, we show them, you know, where their penetrations are supposed to go, and we kind of just walk through it. And then they, you know, they don't pay attention, and they probably will screw it all up anyway. But just because they're just not used to it, right? And so no, when we first come back after the trades are done and they've gotten their inspection ready to cover, we'll go through, we'll do another blower door, make sure everything's tight, and tighten up whatever we needed to beforehand. So yeah, we hit that before we start throwing cellulose into the walls.
So here you are, you know, less than 2 years ago, saying, you know, you went to actually the BCMC show.
Yeah, we did. Right? Yeah, that was our only show we could do during COVID times. So yeah, it just opened up, and they were one of the first ones. And by the way, I think Aaron Love, which you have one of his SD frame machines, I think he sold. I remember exactly what he said to me when I interviewed him. He goes, I cannot believe how many machines I have just sold.
I need to open a bigger shop. And I have that on tape, you know, I'm like, wow.
I believe it. Yeah. Yeah. No, we were there at that. I mean, when you saw his stuff, it was like, it just blew everybody else out of the water.
Yeah.
Is, you know, all the other machines are like just overly designed and like super complicated or made out of like pixie sticks and spit. I mean, you're just like, that's not going to last. And so he's got a great machine. He's got a great printer. That's actually why we got to him.
To label it.
The labeling thing is just a game changer, man. It just makes everything so much awesome. So much easier. Yeah. In fact, we don't even build our, I was just going to say, we don't build our interior walls.
Yeah.
We just do flat pack and then we drag them in and we put the whole thing together in a day. So yeah, knocks it out. All because it's all labeled and marked and cut and like just perfect. And yeah, it's super simple.
You just install it. But let's take it back. So here you are, you're at BCMC, which is a show that the SPCA puts on every year. And this is the place to go where you have the machines. You probably were there looking at what you wanted to buy, I'm assuming.
Exactly it. Yeah. In fact, we went because Aaron invited us and helped pay for our ticket and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. So, so there you are, you got your first machine from Aaron, you know, and you're opening up your shop. Walk us through what that was like. Cause you had your own projects, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We've been dragging projects through the whole COVID time. So they are the longest lasting projects, I think, in the history of residential construction. Some of them have been like 3 years in the making. Because if you remember, like just as COVID was finishing, we had this huge spike in prices. And so they all wanted to like wait for that to go down. And then it went down a bit and sort of just took a little while to get them back up to ready to move on things, not feeling like they were getting stuck with ridiculous prices.
Right.
So yeah, about 2.5, 3 years, we've been doing this, you know, from design work through completion on a couple of these projects. So we knew we could do the work, and that was fantastic. And had some extremely patient and wonderful clients, which, you know, again, I cannot thank them enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we knew we had this sort of pile of projects, or this group of projects that were going to get us through the first year. And we're still finishing those first ones off. And they're fantastic for it. But in the meantime, we have been approached by people, Green Hammer, which is another, you know, design build firm here in Portland. We're doing a project for them. They're actually our second install project. Several developers, like smaller developers in our area, that are trying to do better than code buildings. That's kind of their thing, healthier buildings. You know, we've got several projects going for that. We've got a couple guys that we've talked to that had their own panelization thing, but it didn't work out. And so we're maybe doing some of those projects for them. Yeah, and so it's kind of worked out well for that. But the first year was challenging, though, that's for sure. Trying to get everything worked out. Even Aaron saw it took about 8 months to get to us, I think, from the time we ordered it.
Yeah.
Again, COVID kind of stops everything. So yeah,
the pandemic put a hurting on the supply chain in a big way. So
totally.
You know, one of the things, and correct me if I'm wrong, about the Etsy frame saw that in fact, I remember this, and you don't even have to correct me because I'm pretty darn sure I'm correct about it, is his saw was adaptable to anybody's software. It wasn't that you had to use one software. There was something that made it very versatile compared to some of the other machines that were out there.
I think the versatility is Aaron and Cody and Ben and his team. They're just awesome, because our software wasn't, you know, we use CAD work, which is like the sort of standard for what we're doing. Everyone else uses it for, you know, for that, that does this. But they did not have a plugin for that. And so we ended up paying for them to basically create this, you know, communication device between the two of them. So, that worked out really well. Yeah. We've had no problems with that whatsoever, but yeah, they were definitely way more interest. They were more willing to do that than, you know, MyTech or any other bigger guys, or even the smaller ones who just didn't have, I don't think, the brain power to actually make it work. So,
So walk me through. I'm a client. I want to do a resilient build. I want a passive house, or at least a net zero ready, or just something with a really nice solid envelope. How do I get started with you, Scott? Walk me through your process. And then also I want to know what the value of, you know, I mean, there's a lot of framing shops out there. There's a lot of panel shops out there.
Yeah.
What's the value of what you guys are doing versus others?
Yeah, totally. Do you have the can I show you this thing? You think we talked about the
Right here,
yeah,
the
there you
kit.
go. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So yeah, so we've basically tried to make, well, we haven't tried. We have made like the system as really simple as we possibly could. We keep it, the KISS thing, keep it simple, smarty pants, little Ted Lasso reference right there for
Yeah, yeah.
those who are into that. We use CAD work, and we found CAD work to be the only software out there that will let us take anyone's design. Like we can take anyone's drawings, really at the schematic level,
Yeah.
and really quickly we have the element module. We have this system that we've curated with between them and Estaframe that we can pretty quickly put together a model that shows every single piece of the program that you're going to project that you're going to need, all the studs and bracing and sheathing and hold downs and
Sure.
all the stuff. So that's our first thing that we do, is we create this digital twin. And that gives us all of the takeoffs as well, so we can get like an absolute price for everyone once we get that model done. There's no guessing. There's no, well, we're a little over, a little under when we're on site and we forgot this or that. It's like all sort of figured out. So our pricing is fixed and it doesn't change. Once we get the digital twin done and everyone signs off on that, this looks great. Then we send everything to we call it the super saw, the Estaframe saw. It's going to be called the Simpson saw soon, right? Isn't that what they're going to change it to or something?
So, well, they were bought by Simpson. So hopefully Aaron did well.
Well, we think we have the last red one. They're probably all going to be orange and brown after this. So,
right.
So we send it over to the super saw. It cuts and marks everything. We end up with about a 3% waste factor. So almost nothing. I mean, doesn't even fill our garbage can. And then all of that material we actually recycle here in Portland anyways. We've got a couple of locations we can take that to. So really there's no waste. All the panels are framed indoors. It starts off on the assembly table like you see here. We've got a set of shop drawings that go along with that lay out everything top and bottom, inside and out for all of the panels. And sometimes we have to bring in some plywood sheathing if it's on the exterior of the house, of the wall, that sort of stuff. And then we also use a laser that lays out the layout on the assembly table as well. So it's sort of a double check that you really can't build it wrong. So our guys you can see them there putting the studs together. From here, it gets turned vertically. And that's when we put on the WRB and the battens and the pest screens. And we seal everything off, and then we can install the windows and doors at that time too. So all of our projects have the windows and doors installed. So it's completely airtight or watertight by the time it gets done. And then after we're done with that, then we go to the install. And so we can fit 2 pallets on a truck, and each pallet has 6 walls on it. And so most projects, like the first project was around a 3,000 square foot project. And it had, I think, 4 truckloads. So 4 trucks worth of walls and walls for the garage and the ADU and the house were all combined. So 4 trips back and forth from our shop. And then those get loaded onto the site as a package and then separated out individually and installed using the crane system. So 3 to 5 days, airtight, dried in.
Yeah, there you go. I put the video up here to kind of show what we can. Had to blow it up. The Instagram makes it so tiny.
I know. Yeah, sorry. Thanks for pulling it up.
Yeah.
You can so you can see like the whole pallets there. We have it ready and braced already, so they can just set it down on the deck. And then they just pick a piece off one at a time. So it's really short moves.
Yeah.
That's what we're working on right now, is getting all of that stuff worked out so that it's as tight as we can on site. You can kind of see our little green tags as well. So everything's got a special tag, and on that tag is all of these, all the stages are initialed off by whoever did the work. So that way we can go back and say, oh, we had a mistake with this. We can figure out what happened and solve all the problems.
Yeah, and I love it. You got the bracing frames on the end, so when they set it, you don't have people getting hurt trying to hold it up, and you leave enough space to pull the straps out. I see that.
Yep.
which is
Yep.
brilliant as well. How many walls are part of that package right there? Is that
We
one?
had, oh, this is 6. Generally it's
Right.
6. This might only be 5, but typically we can fit 6 per package.
You can fit 6 per package. And
Yeah.
walk me through what we're seeing here. You're using, is that a 475 house wrap?
That is. So we use 475 products for just about everything.
Yeah.
And so that's the Mento Plus, because we're
Mhm.
only have the Mento material on the exterior of the building because we've moved the plywood to the inside.
Okay.
The plywoods are our vapor barrier as well as our airtight barrier.
Right.
And we'd like it to be right smack in the middle of the wall,
Yeah.
best practices for high performance building. And then also it's just protected from putting pictures on the wall or attaching things to the outside of the house. You're never going to puncture it. And we were a little skeptical about the whole Mento on the exterior of the building. It's just definitely different than we do here in the US for the most part. But man, we've had punch tests where we have, even our shop guys like trying to put a hole in that stuff. It's actually hard to cut, let alone break. It's got a fiberglass mesh on the inside. It's pretty hardcore stuff. So.
And your windows, let's talk about those as well, because you're using triple pane windows on this.
Yeah.
So that's something. Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah. The windows we get are fantastic. We used to buy from a company called Euroclimb.
Okay.
And they were a direct importer from Poland. They've since stopped doing residential work.
Yep.
We were going to take over the importing directly. And then we had a good friend of ours that was looking for something to do. His kids are old enough. They're in, school now. And so he's going back to work, and he took over this company. It's called Pivot. And so Pivot Windows, Andrew over there is just amazingly on top of everything. And so, we import these from a couple of different factories in Poland direct. So we get ridiculous pricing. Our cost to our clients is somewhere just above Milgard level, definitely lower than the Marvins and the other things that are on the higher end scale. And they're amazing. They're super great, down to 0.14 U values. Just awesome devices.
Now these are aluminum windows?
So we can do aluminum, or we can do, it's a thermally broken aluminum, obviously, or we can do a UPVC. Those are the two that we're really focusing on right now. We can get just about anything, but those are the two that everyone wants.
When you're building or working with other developers, builders, general contractors, is there typically an education process that you're walking them through as they're trying to get a feel for how this works and how to really build a tight envelope?
Yeah, it's funny. Everyone has different views on what that means, tight envelope, right? We've been super fortunate that the guys that we've talked to so far, the companies we've talked to so far, have really already walked the walk a lot. I mean, they've been trying to make a higher performance building for a while, not to the standards of what we're looking at generally. They're just trying to do a little bit better than code. But so, there's definitely some education. We go through, why we're doing this and what this matters for, and all of that kind of stuff. But not as much as that used to be a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, we would mention high performance, and people would be like, "You mean like a race car? What does that even mean for a house?" And we don't get those stares anymore. I mean, I think everyone is really aware of what it is and what it means to have a high performance building. So that's been great.
Yeah. Talk to me about the factory. How big is your shop? How many team members do you have?
So we got about 8 to 10 folks. Depends on what time of year it is and if people have their side projects going or not. It's just the standard, commercial, contractor type stuff. But we got 8 to 10 people either in the office or in the shop. We got an 8,000 square foot shop and about 1,000 square foot office.
Okay.
And we're close, like I said, close in downtown Portland, which has been great for delivery. We're actually 10 blocks away from our lumber supplier, so we can get stuff super fast. And we get just tons of people who want to come work here, which has been fantastic. So
your lumber is a big part of your success and your story. You want to tell us a little bit about the lumber?
Yeah, the lumber is awesome. And it's definitely, we're just super fortunate where we live. And so happens to be at the middle of temperate rainforest. So we get lots of lumber here, lots of wood in Portland, in Oregon in general. But yeah, it all comes within about 400 miles of our location. It's all the wood that we use is FSC certified. So that means, you know, whoever grew it is growing it properly and is growing it for forever instead of just a quick buck turnaround. It also means, though, I'll tell you, that our wood is so much better than everyone else's wood. We end up with, we don't use Doug fir, we use a hem fir product that's a #1 though. And so we don't get wanes hardly ever. I mean, it's hardly ever bowed or twisted at all. I mean, we're doing work right now on a site where we have to build pony walls on the site. And you know how concrete is, you just have to do all that kind of work on site. You can't really panelize it. So we're out there doing that work, and man, you just step back and you're like, this thing just looks awesome. I mean, it's goofy, it's totally geeky to say that your framing looks amazing, but yeah, you look at it and you're like, it's straight as hell, and it's just like, yeah, it's just really fun to work with as well. From a framer standpoint.
All right. It makes absolutely no sense to me that would be exhilarating and exciting, right? Oh, it's straight. Imagine that, right? We were talking a little bit offline about Integra and their system, and you know, totally. and I always give Jerry credit for this, and I say it all the time. So people that are listening to this be like, here he goes again. But Jerry became one of my favorite people. But you know, Offsite, right? You know, NASA is the greatest offsite builder in the world.
Right? Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like he always says, could you imagine the astronauts out in space doing their spacewalk, getting ready to put on the new piece of the space station, and the plans say, field verify.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It makes no sense. So
yeah, totally makes no sense. Yeah. Yeah. So so the wood's fantastic. It's like I said, it's super local. Yeah, and it's great. Yeah, we love work. Even the plywood comes the same way. It's just awesome. Yeah.
In 30 seconds or less, Scott, I'm giving you 30 seconds. It can take longer, but I really want to know, like, you know, for you, what problem are you solving?
Yeah, for us, you know, we're solving that, you know, there are builders out there that want to make a better product. I mean, everyone right now, I think, wants to make a better product. We all realize that the way we've been building is just old and sort of behind the times. But we want to be able to do the heavy lifting for these other GCs, for these builders. You know, we've spent 15 years figuring this stuff out. Not everybody has to. You know, we want to be their framer. We want to be their weatherproofer. We want to take the risk away from them being able to jump into doing high performance building. And we want to see more builders take it on. So we're price pointing ourselves at that level for that reason. And we're trying to simplify the process as much as we can for that reason. Yeah.
In pricing, you are finding that you are becoming very, very price competitive because of the processes and systems that you're now putting in place and optimizing. Is that an accurate statement?
That's super accurate. Yeah. If not with the same code level, like if pricing for code level built, we're right there, if not less. So.
Yeah. And that's great, especially on the West Coast. It's like the East Coast, right? I mean, it's super labor's expensive these days.
Yeah.
Products are expensive these days. Greg Ugaldi joining us and George Ryman. Good to see you guys too. Super cool. What didn't I talk about that everybody needs to know, Scott?
Golly. Well, let me show you. I can show you some details for our that we've got going on. We kind of look at it. We can do any design anyone brings us. You know, we're not trying to create our own set of architectural beauty and say that's just what you have to build. So you can bring us whatever your designs are and we can figure it out for you. I mean, there are high performance rules as far as simplicity of form and things like that will just make it easier for everyone and cheaper. But we walk designers through that kind of stuff all the time. We've been doing that for years. But we see it as as almost like a product. So we've got 3 like main products. And so the first main product, the one we think is the most affordable, the lowest embodied energy, and just the easiest to build and for trades to like figure out what's going on when they're on site, is the resilient wall. You know, that's what we call it. That's why we call it that. It's just a simple double stud wall, 2x6 structural wall, just like every other code built home in America. The only difference is we put the plywood on the inside. That's our shear value. We use the Mento on the outside. The reason is that plywood is by its nature just less vapor open than these other membranes are going to be. So there's our vapor barrier, our air barrier. We tape it all together and use that. Plus, then it's super protected because we put a 2x4 service cavity on the inside, and then this little space between them, anywhere from 1 inch to 6 inches. And that's where we get like the custom ability for jumping through different climate zones with the exact same system. Is we just open up that gap as you basically go up the mountains into like more challenging climate zones. We just can add more insulation super easily and at the lowest cost. Blowing in insulation bibs is just like the cheapest insulation you can do, and it's the best. It fills all the crevices and goes around wires and all of that.
Yeah.
So it's just the best. So that's our main. What's that now?
Is that done at the factory?
We don't. We looked at doing insulation in the factory. We keep going back and forth on it, but the reality is that it more than doubles the weight of the walls, and then we get into some transportation issues. So by not putting it in the factory and doing it all on site, which we have to do some of it on site anyways after the trades. So there's really no reason for us to do it on site here. There's no reason for us to do it in the shop. Which is right behind this wall. That's why I mean on site. So there's no reason to do it in the shop. We can just do it on site, which is where it traditionally gets done anyways.
Right.
And there's not much of a benefit for doing it here in the shop. So
yeah, for sure. So you have multiple, like this is one of the systems. Is there another system that you're using?
Yeah. So this is the resilient system. Then we have what's called the zipper that we conveniently call the zipper. Hopefully won't get in trouble from Huber on that, but it's using like the Huber R material. So we can use like the 1.5 inch polyiso with the Huber material on the outside. People like that. It's very simple. It gives you your plywood on the outside. We still will do battens and bug screens and all of that kind of stuff on the outside. Okay. But that's the zipper. And then the sweater is like the super traditional passive house type wall system. We've done this several times on site. You do whatever, again, 2x6 structural or a T-stud structural wall. And then you do insulation of choice on the outside. There's a GPS or EPS, or Rockwool is the one that most people really think about for the fireproofing and things like that. And we have a couple clients that we're doing this for. It's just it's a little bit more expensive. It's challenging to get the battens to plane out properly when you have sort of a softer material that you're trying to screw against. Everyone who's built a passive house this way will tell you, add in a couple extra days for just doing 1/8 inch turns with your screwdriver on those battens to like move them in and out that tiny little bit, and string lines and all kinds of fancy stuff to try to figure that stuff out. But we offer that, and it's a lot easier in our shop, honestly, than it is on site again.
Sure. Yeah. Well, listen, better late than never. What's up, Mr. Willie?
Oh, there he is.
I am enjoying this, Dave. Scott, so brilliant. Like, I can't tell you how fun it is just to sit and watch. So laid out. The zipper, the sweater, and right before it, the KISS acronym. Keep it smart, silly. That's what I was taught. Brilliant.
Thanks, man. That's awesome to hear from you. I mean, the T-studs are something we've been playing with for a long time. We haven't used them yet, but that's awesome.
With what you have there, you're handling all the thermal so well. So that's it. There's like Dave and I always talk about, there's thousands of options out there.
Yeah.
And once you handle it, like with that sweater detail and the zipper, you've created the red line, right? The thermal control. And I love the point that Dave brought up about the insulation and how you answered it. The framing and the structure is done, right? It's so well laid out, and let the insulation happen there. You brought up the logistics point and the weight issue. And now their standard insulator can do that. And who knows, that might change over time. There's a swap depending on location. Brilliant brilliant.
Thanks. Oh, well, thanks, man.
Presentation.
Yeah, it's
we have a
funny
lot
you
of
say
brilliant
that, the
people on
back and
this show.
forth. We have a couple of clients who want us to do work out in the middle of the woods. And so now we're like, oh, well, we maybe will have to like do the insulation here in the shop because it is more challenging the farther you go. So, yeah.
Yeah, very much so. It is. It's definitely more challenging the further you go. And again, the more you can get done in a controlled environment, the easier your lives are and the less weather issues you have to deal with or anything else, right? Or labor showing up or whatever the case may be. So, but that takes a separate part of your shop to do it. And that's part of the growth and the pains of growth, I guess.
Yeah. I don't think we could manage it in this particular shop. I mean, this is the right size for knocking out a couple of projects every few weeks.
Yep.
But if we added another step in there, I think we would be a little in trouble. So
right. Yeah.
You know,
next shop.
There's that thing of what is the right number of clients and what is the right size of clients, right?
Yeah.
Logistics is everything. There's factories that we all know of that are in a location that doesn't have serviceability.
Yeah.
So where you're located, that's not an issue. You're booming, baby.
Thanks. Yeah. Things are going well here for the building industry. That's for sure.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, what haven't we covered? We got your wall systems, the 3 different types. We talked about the factory. We talked about what problems you're solving. We got the background and the history on who you are. You got an SD frame, which is one of my favorites. So that's cool to see. I mean, this has
awesome.
this has been a fun thing to do today.
Well, yeah, no, it's been fantastic for me. That's for sure. No, I think you've nailed it all. I mean, the other thing I'd say is, you had mentioned earlier, like our website's a little tough to find and all that.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily on purpose, but it's only been a year. So we've been kind of walking, doing baby steps, like walking into these things. We definitely have heard from lots of the other guys that do this work that you can grow too fast in this industry and just kill yourself almost really.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just grow too much and explode. So we're taking it little steps at a time. We're planning on doing about 7 or 8 projects this year. But we're definitely starting to do the screaming from the mountaintops kind of thing here shortly. So really appreciate you guys letting us come on and do this.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to see you open up shop next to a modular builder and you guys do the panelization and the wall.
That would be awesome.
They do the assembly and the mod shop and the shipping and the finishing. I think it'll be exciting to see this because all modular manufacturers are panelizer to some extent, right? They're just
totally.
But not to the level that a true panel shop does, like yourself or what Jerry was doing at Integra and some of these other things. So I don't know if that's food for thought, but you got a bunch of new modular manufacturers popping up and around the whole West Coast there. So maybe there's some opportunity for you because that's what I'd be pushing.
That's a great idea. We had not thought of that. There actually is a good friend of ours, Nathan Young, who's here in Portland for Mods PDX. He's that's great. We might reach out to him again and talk about that. So yeah. He's been awesome. He's come here and helped us out as well with some of the connections and the right transit guys and the crane folks. I mean, that's all the sort of secret sauce, really.
But that is the sweet spot. I love that they brought up the collaboration period with modular. And at the end of the day, we all know that there are jobs that cannot take a modular delivery, and that has nothing to do with the factory. Factories can produce more than you can handle. It has to do with the logistics route and the site conditions. And so Panelized really allows then, say your friend, if you're on the same premises at the modular factory, can't take on a job. Now they can. And as they go through the ebbs and flows of growth, the Panelized expertise allows that to work in there. So you're going to see more of exactly that because that's what evolution is. It's defining our strengths and finding the best applications.
Yeah, that's true.
And diversifying. So especially in the manufacturing space, the more diversified you are and the more you can produce for different industries, but not changing your lines because it's the same thing, just used in different formats. the more resilient you become, and we're seeing that all around the world. A lot of these manufacturing facilities, Scott, are just, they're not looking to just be a mod shop. They're looking to be a panel shop. They're looking to build their own stuff, so it's really interesting to see what's starting to happen. So awesome, man. Cool.
Yeah. We have the famous Henry Ford line, right? You could have any car you want, any color you want, as long as it's black. He progressed into green, and then we know.
Yeah, and then it just went crazy from there.
Yeah. Well,
now we have looked at doing like an ADU pack. We've been talking to some of our architecture friends, and we're getting a line together of like architect designed or inspired ADUs, because that's a big thing here too. I don't know if you know about Portland's zoning and land use, but now you can do ADUs, 2 or 3 of them per lot. So it's kind of everywhere.
Okay, that's really cool. 2 to 3 a lot. You can do ADUs on.
Yeah, they've sort of destroyed, or I guess I shouldn't say destroyed. There's no more single family residential zoning in Oregon, so it's all gone. So,
no kidding.
Yeah, so you can do multiples all over. Yeah.
The application I would call for in that route, and I think in due time we'll see switchback of that particular ordinance as we've seen generationally happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was the developer of that project, the first thing I would put in the ground would be the ADUs. Again, everything is site dependent, and then move forward to that main structure, because expeditiously that helps the build. It helps the decision-making process and the flow in most sites, right? Because you're working back to front. Like, not a lot of skyscrapers work top to bottom, right? So really cool. I love your location, and I'm glad Dave picked you for today. It's brilliant.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been
awesome. Just a quick question. Are the ADUs that are able to go on the lots, are they pre-approved by code and stamp, signed, sealed? You just need to get your infrastructure inspections, and then you can put them in place?
We have not quite gotten to that point yet. I know in Washington you can get, and depends on the municipality, you can get like a pre-approved plans. There are definitely certain criteria that they all have to hit. And so if we had a line that hit that, it would be similar to that. Yeah. So we could get them all sort of pre-engineered, pre-approved. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Not all ADUs out there have the P, right? The plumbing.
Yeah.
And so the square footage spot is additional footing, foundation areas. I don't know, perhaps you could do helical. That's all soil test dependent. But the waste and the water is already being paid for to site. The electric, hopefully not the gas, is already being paid for to site. And then you have the additional lengths and connection points based on your FAR. So it doesn't happen that all ADUs have that.
Right.
But depending on your use, you may not need it. So you could stub for it and then add it later, I guess, if you had the thing. But we all know water goes in one way and out another. So make sure you plan for it with your landscape, etc.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And Mark's using terminology. If you don't know what FAR is, floor area ratio, if you're out there watching this. Cool, man. Mark, you got skid marks on the side of your legs? I mean, you came skidding in by the seat of your pants today.
I did. I believe the song we were taught as kids is "Over the River and Through the Woods." So I'd gotten a message from Dave, or different time zones earlier, and my phone locked, which is brilliant. And so I'm flying in, and thankfully, we use the StreamYard platform for the LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube broadcast. I was able to get into LinkedIn and join the StreamYard, but that takes 15 to 20 minutes when you have a lock in and of itself.
Yeah, for sure. Let me just see what Peter said. Hey, Peter, how are you? Scott Kosmecki. To know that the buildings are constructed inside, away from inclement weather. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Especially this winter, we got, like I said, into the teens, which we don't know how to deal with that here. It just isn't what happens. So
Yeah.
Well, but fortunately you do, right?
Yeah,
you have the zipper and you have the sweater, right?
right.
The buildings don't care. It's the people's appendages that care.
Yep. 100%.
Yep.
All right. Well, cool. Scott, thanks for joining us. Mark,
No,
glad you could jump in there. Listen, everybody, we are on the road again. That's right. We are on the road again. I will be in Washington, D.C. next week. That's right. For the Housing Innovation Showcase on the Washington Mall. We're also going to be doing some work with the International Codes Council, and we're going to be doing some live video filming from their location. And then we're also going to be showcasing folks on the mall. And on top of that, Monday's show, let me put it up on here. Monday, we have the Last Mile on. That's right. Brian Gaudio module in their Last Mile lab. We're going to have their director on. We're going to be talking about the innovation lab, the workforce development they're doing, the finishing facilities that they have built here. That's right. Right here in Pittsburgh. So it's going to be a lot of fun. They're also showcasing their first build out of this lab in DC on the Washington Mall. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then it doesn't end there. We're on the road a lot, everyone. Then we're heading. That's right. Hear me now. We are headed to Las Vegas again. I will be at Boxable once again because I can't go to Las Vegas without checking out the Boxable, folks. But I'll be in Las Vegas. And then we come back, and this is exciting, Mark. I come back Sunday, and then Monday we're heading to Connecticut for what symposium, Mark? What symposium's in Connecticut?
It's the town that Greg Ugaldi built. It's the town that Ben Bogie built. It is the Northeast Building Science Symposium.
That's right. The Northeast Building Science Symposium. And then a day after that, we'll be in Boston. And we'll be in Boston at Howick Steel Horizon, and I will be speaking in Boston as well. We're going to be all over the place, and then a week after that, we're in Europe for 5 weeks doing our show. So now's the time to tune in. There's all kinds of really, really great things happening, and we have the honor and the privilege to be the ones able to travel and showcase all of this to everybody, to include Resilient Build with Scott and all the people that Mark's brought on the show over the years here. So we're ramping it up. It's getting bigger. It's getting better. And for a lot of you out there don't know, you might actually see us on TV here in a short while as well. We're going to start something there. But man, that Hollywood stuff's weird, Mark. Like it's been starting for 2 years now. So it feels like it's getting closer, but we'll see. So a lot of great things happening. So looking forward to it. Perfect. All right, Mark, you got anything coming up you need to announce before we wrap it up?
No, I mean this is summer season, folks. So make sure you use the water when you're supposed to. Make sure you don't use the water if you have indigenous plants out there for your area. I'm really into the summer water conservation, and when you can, just enjoy your water sports. So that's the full circle, and plan on, since Scott's got his 8 projects for this year, give him a call. Plan on your 2024 season because early bird gets the worm.
That's it. All right, everybody.
We can squeeze you in, maybe.
What's that?
We can maybe squeeze them in this year, too.
That's right. All right, listen, everybody. That's a wrap for today. But remember, this Monday, join us, Marquis Kofer from the Last Mile Lab, which is part of something that Brian Gaudio and Module started. I want to read this because it's important. It's a construction innovation lab, as well as a workforce training program. The goal of this space is to fuel innovation in the home building industry while furthering Module's mission to create a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive way to build new housing. 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Mark, Scott, stay right there. I'll come back to you after the outro. The rest of you, have an awesome weekend. We'll see you this Monday. Bye, everybody.